Hello there, people of the internet. There is a ton of debate over what cartridge it is that you should use for what purpose, etc., etc. This is not a video talking about the debate between different cartridges. This is a video talking about the debate of what you're going to pick and whether or not it can immediately stop a threat. I have heard a lot of people tell me that something like 22 long rifle is absolutely adequate to put someone or something inside of the dirt, and yes, that is definitely true. It absolutely can. However, in the heat of the moment where something is trying to attack you and do you bodily harm, is this powerful and potent enough to actually stop the threat, especially whenever proper shot placement is off the table because you are in a fight for your life? Not necessarily. I don't know if I would trust my life to 22 long rifle to stop whatever threat it is that I've deemed so deadly that I have to draw my firearm in order to put a stop to it. So, one of the big debates here in the US is whether or not 9mm is powerful enough to stop whatever threat it is that you're looking at. Now, if this was, 20, 30 years ago, then the answer would be a lot more cloudy than it is nowadays. However, due to modern projectile technology and modern powders, 9mm has absolutely become something that can be a severe force to be reckoned with, especially if we're talking about getting plus P ammunition with modern projectiles that are designed to expand and fragment and do significant damage and dump all of its energy onto its target. However, most people who utilize firearms aren't going to be utilizing specialty rounds such as proper defensive ammunition. They're going to go out and get some full metal jackets like what we have right here, and that's going to be what they use. And I would definitely not want to trust a full metal jacket 9mm with my life. Now, the military does use it, and there's reasons why they use it. A lot of people say that it's because of the rules of war and whatnot. That's partially true, but a lot of it has to do with the fact that it is the easiest type of round to produce versus making some sort of specialty ammunition for the military. So, ball ammunition, that is what most people are going to use. It's the cheapest to get your hands on, etc., etc. So, if we're talking ball ammo, then I would not necessarily trust my life to ball 9mm. A lot of people do. A lot of people will use that ball 9mm because they're just under the assumption that since it has put plenty of people in the ground, it will handle the job that they have to handle. But just because something puts somebody inside of the dirt does not mean that they're going to stop the threat. There have been plenty of examples of all sorts of police footage of people being hit with 9mm rounds and not going down, or even if they do go down, guess what? They still have a gun inside of their hand, and they are still able to pull off some shots and send lead at the police that are trying to put them down and stop the threat. This is just not something that you could use for immediately threat stopping. Even if you have a bunch of these rounds, all that full metal jacket rounds do is poke a hole through a target, and then the round does not necessarily dump all of its energy onto that target, which is why it pokes a hole through that target and keeps going and hits whatever it is that is behind the target. That's where the usefulness of some sort of specialty or expanding round comes from. So, if you are going to go with just ball rounds, just full metal jackets that aren't any kind of specialty ammo, then I would definitely not recommend going with something like 9mm. If you are going to go with just a standard ball round, 45 ACP might be the way to go. Now, 9mm has definitely caught up with 45 ACP in a lot of ways. Specialty 9mm rounds can deliver even more energy transfer than just ball 45 ACP. However, 45 ACP has also had its fair share of advancements whenever it comes to powder design and bullet design. The technology that is there for 9mm is also there for 45 ACP. If you get yourself specialty defensive proper 45 ACP ammunition, then that right there is just going to transfer more energy onto your target than 9mm and be significantly more likely to put down your target and stop whatever threat it is that you're needing to stop. Now, the question comes, oftentimes 9mm handguns are going to be a higher capacity than 45 ACP handguns simply because the cartridge is smaller. So do you want the smaller cartridge that is going to be less powerful, but have more rounds of ammunition versus the larger cartridge, which is going to be more powerful, more energy transferred, but has less amount of ammunition. A lot of that can be concluded with the type of ammunition that you're using. I would take 8 rounds of 45 ACP versus 10 rounds of 9mm if we're talking about just standard ball stuff. But if you give me proper, like, defensive ammunition that I would be able to properly rely on to stop a threat immediately, both 45 ACP and 9mm, then of course I would take the proper 9mm with more ammunition versus the 45 ACP, because they'll both be able to stop the threat. Just because something can put someone down does not mean that it will immediately stop them. That's one of the big debates with 7.62x39 versus something like 223.556. There are a lot of examples of 223.556 being used in all sorts of theaters all around the world, and it not being effective at immediately stopping threats. A lot of people point to 223.556 at its capabilities in comparison to its weight. You can definitely carry more rounds of 5.56 than you can 7.62x39, but if you're going to use more rounds of ammunition on your target to immediately stop that threat, then why bother? Why not just use less ammunition? So if it takes more than 1 round to stop your threat, then it's not an immediate stop on that threat. And 7.62x39, this 30 caliber round, 123 grain projectile, traveling at about 2,400 or so feet per second, that is a serious force to be reckoned with, especially within 400 yards, which is about the capabilities of this cartridge. People can touch out to farther distances with that. If you can do that, then you are definitely among the minority. So, pistol cartridges, they all are not that great in comparison to something like rifle cartridges, simply because they are traveling slower. They're pistol cartridges, they're by design intended to be weaker, and that's just because of the platforms that they are fired out of versus something like a rifle cartridge. Getting hit by a standard 5.56 round is going to be a lot more detrimental than getting hit by either a ball round 9mm or a ball round 45 ACP. And then 7.62x39, if we're talking standard ball ammunition, that's going to be a lot worse than getting hit by ball 223.556. Of course, there are significantly more devastating rounds. I got this right here. This is a double-aught buckshot round for a 12-gauge shotgun. I think it fires 9 pellets of 12-gauge, and this is a severely, it's a severe force to be reckoned with. Shotguns are one of the best ways to immediately stop a threat and put it down. We have seen that in all sorts of situations as well. And that's good, because a shotgun is typically what most people can agree, like, hey, that's a good, adequate defense firearm. I don't think anyone's going to argue that, not unless you're inside of a context where you have to shoot over incredibly long distances, but most people aren't going to be able to shoot at those incredibly long distances anyway. So I'm sure that my remarks on 22 long rifle are going to upset people. I'm sure somebody's going to tell me about the world record bear that was taken out with 22 long rifle. Well, that bear was taken out with 22 long rifle because it was hit with proper shot placement right in the eye, and then it was followed up with 7 shots right to the head at point blank range. That's just not something that can happen if that bear is trying to eat your face. So the situation of immediately stopping a threat is a lot different than the situation of, hey, can this thing put down whatever it is that I'm trying to put down? So I think I've made my point in this video. Hopefully I did anyway. I'm just going to go ahead and do the outro now. Thank you ever so much for watching, folks. I do appreciate your time. Like, subscribe, share. Description below has a link to all sorts of stuff. Go check it out. You guys go off. Have yourself a fantastic day. I will see you guys in the next episode.
I've done this. Bonnie and Clyde be damned. Poor man's Garen. It's a shame that bolt-action shotguns aren't more mainstream.